Hello and welcome to Friday's ESPN FC Live. Stevie Nicol has kindly taken a break from raking leaves in his yard to join us. Rob Dawson was at the Manchester United press conference earlier today. He joins us as well. My name's Mark Donaldson. Thank you for your company. A Premier League preview, a Bundesliga preview, a La Liga preview, NWSL and USL finals, all still to come. There's only one place to start, though. That's with Rob Dawson talking about Manchester United. Before we get into what Erik Ten Hag said, Rob, earlier today at his press conference, what's the feeling like? What's the mood like in the Northwest right now among Man United fans, given all the things that have happened to them this season?
Doom and gloom, to be honest. The run of results, I think it's 9 defeats now in 17 games to start the season. For a club the size of Man United, and the money that's been spent is appalling. They've got Luton Town at Old Trafford on Saturday, a game that usually you would expect Man United to win comfortably, but the United fans going to Old Trafford on Saturday will be very, very nervous because this is a team that just looks capable of losing every time they step out onto the pitch. That they haven't played well at all this season. You could probably count on one hand the number of times where they've looked convincing this season. Lots of the wins recently have been by the skin of the teeth. At Fulham last weekend, 1-0 in the last minute. Against Copenhagen in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago. Against Brentford, they needed 2 goals in stoppage time. There's just not anything convincing about Man United at the moment. And the fans that follow them are nervous every time they step out and play.
Stevie, the graphic at the bottom of the screen says Manchester United in trouble. How much trouble are they in?
I would suggest that this is about as low as they've been since Ollie took over. I mean, it just feels like one calamity after another, and it feels like going into every game, you're wondering when the calamity is going to appear. I mean, they're in serious trouble. There is no part of the club, never mind just the results. There doesn't seem to be any part of the club that's running smoothly and looks as though it knows what direction it's going in, whether it's the owners, whether it's the board, whether it's the director of football. Certainly the manager doesn't look as though he knows what way he's going. He doesn't know whether he's in fast forward or reverse. And I think ultimately all that is reflected on what's happening on the field. Mm-hmm. Nobody on the field looks as though they know what they're supposed to be doing. So, yeah, I think to be honest, Rob summed it up, and actually the tone of how he summed it up when he said,
"Yeah, I was thinking that." Mm-hmm.
When he said doom and gloom, it wasn't it's doom and gloom. It was actually, oh my goodness, this. So yeah, they're in big trouble. And Ten Hag particularly is in big trouble. I mean, I lost to Luton. I don't think they'll lose to Luton.
No,
honestly, I think
probably not. But we can't say for certain now, though. That's the thing.
I lost to Luton. There is no way they can keep Ten Hag if they lose at home to Luton. There's no way.
Rob, the question has to be why. Now, you've spoken with Erik Ten Hag, 3rd in the table last season, and they won a trophy as well, the League Cup. Not even Stevie, who's got the most Liverpool-tinted glasses, would have predicted this. So why has it happened? When you speak to Ten Hag, what's his reasoning for why this is happening?
As bad as it sounds, I don't think that he knows, and that's one of the problems.
Wow.
You're right that they had a successful season, a relatively successful first season under Ten Hag last year. They spent money in the summer. I think the expectation was that there'd be some kind of progress. They would kick on somehow. They're probably not ready to challenge Arsenal and Man City for the Premier League title, but the expectation was that they were going to take another step forward. In reality, they've probably taken about 5 steps back. The biggest issue, the biggest change for me is the way that they've defended. They struggled to score goals last season, and they are struggling to score goals again. Last season, they found a way to defend. They had more Premier League clean sheets last season than anyone else. And this year, they just look like a team that doesn't know how to defend at all. They concede lots of goals. I think it's 30 in 17 games already this season, which is obviously around about 2 a game, which is far too many for a big side. Not only that, they concede lots of goals in a short space of time. Against Copenhagen on Wednesday, it was 2 in 4 minutes to lose the game at the end. Against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, it was 2 in 7 minutes. There have been instances again, earlier in the season at Bayern, at Arsenal, against Forest at home. These these situations where they collapse and concede more than one goal in a very, very short space of time. Obviously injuries haven't helped at all. And Ten Hag has made a point of saying that he hasn't been able to pick his starting back five. He's had injuries to Martinez, to Luke Shaw, who have barely played this season. He's got a new goalkeeper in Andre Onana. The problem is that often these sound like excuses, and United have still got a very, very good squad. They've got a deep squad full of very, very good players. And the drop-off in form really is inexplicable. The way that they are struggling to defend compared to how they were doing it last year is unbelievable. And when you can't defend, I mean, Stevie will know better than anyone, as a former defender. When you can't defend, there's no point really in anything else. If you're conceding goals and shipping goals at that rate, it's an absolute disaster. You just don't win games.
How much of this is on Ten Hag, Stevie, and how much of it is on bad luck, bad fortune with the injuries to Luke Shaw, with the injuries to Lisandro Martinez, both of them likely to be out for the rest of the year, and recruitment clearly hasn't been good enough. So does Ten Hag take all the blame here for the situation they're in, or are there mitigating circumstances, including behind the scenes where we know about the Glazers and obviously the potential new input coming in soon? Is it all of this that combines, or is it mostly Ten Hag?
Well, to Rob's point about losing goals, he's absolutely right. It affects everybody. It even affects the centre forward, because when you're Hoyland and you're running your guts out like this kid does, and every time you seem to take a step forward by putting the ball in the back of the net, and you look down the other end and the ball's hitting your own net, it takes the stuffing out of everybody. So yeah, I mean, when you lose goals, it affects the whole team, not just defenders. But at the end of the day, listen, the coach has to take the majority of the blame. Yes, you can blame individual players for their attitude or for their mistakes, but ultimately it's the coach's job to get his players in a mental state to defend properly, whether it be through good organisation or whether it be man management or working with them as a group. At the end of the day, that's your job as a coach. You have to organise, and particularly your back line. Because when you keep clean sheets, like Man United did last year, all they need is somebody to be informed, like Rashford was. Now, I am not shocked that Rashford isn't doing this year what he did last year, because what he did in a 6-month spell last year was completely against everything he'd done probably for the previous 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't convinced he was going to do it again. And the fact that he's not doing it, again, isn't a shock. But the fact that they're shipping in goals means that they're losing games and not coming out the other side. But really, you got to look at Ten Hag. I mean, the organisation isn't there, which seems incredible. They've all got 25 coaches. They've got videos. They've got analysts. They've got everything you need to organise and figure out things. They keep telling us they've got all these people because we go into minute details. Well, where's the minute details in this Manchester United back line? Because it is an absolute shambles. And for all the experience Varane has and for all the experience Maguire has, somehow they've left their brains in the dressing room. They're defending like schoolboys. I mean, they're standing on the top of the 6-yard, the fourth goal in particular. They're standing on top of the 6-yard box for a ball coming in. I mean, it's madness. It's just not the way you defend. You've got to try and clear your box, give the goalie a chance. I mean, simple things. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out the basics of football. Coaches from 12-year-old kids up to professionals are doing this week in and week out. So how is Manchester United such a shambles? It really is baffling. It's totally baffling.
Rob, Stevie says he just can't see Luton winning at Old Trafford. But what if they do? Would that be it for Erik Ten Hag?
You would have to think that it would be close. There's absolutely no appetite at the moment at Man United to sack him. There's no succession plan in place. They desperately want it to work out for Ten Hag. The problem is that once results get away from you, then you can't. There's no hiding place from that. You can have, with the best will in the world, you can talk about plans and long-term planning and everything. If you're losing week after week, Stevie's right that the manager is the guy that has to pay the price and he has to go. the interesting thing about this situation, you've mentioned it before, is that at some point over the next 2 weeks, we expect Sir Jim Ratcliffe to have a 25% stake in Man United. Now, as part of that deal, he would quite like to have control or at least influence over the sporting side of the business. And obviously the key guy on the football side of the club is the manager. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the noises coming out from Sir Jim Ratcliffe's camp was that they would back Erik ten Hag. They wanted to have him as the first guy of this new era, that they knew the fans were very supportive of him. But obviously with every defeat, that confidence, whether it's with Sir Jim Ratcliffe or the fans, erodes a little bit. And it has eroded. You know, the optimism that fans had around Ten Hag and the club over the summer has disappeared to some extent. And so when you get a situation like a game against Luton at Old Trafford, you know, a team that they should be beating 9 times out of 10, if that game goes the wrong way and they were to lose that, then everyone at the club has got a big decision to make, because ultimately it can't carry on. And as I say, United, you know, haven't really got any kind of appetite to sack Ten Hag. They really, really don't want to. But you cannot have a situation where you continue to lose. And we saw the same situation with Jose Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They were both sacked mid-season around about sort of November, December time, because results just spiraled out of control. And the one thing that the club could do, that the biggest change that they could make, was the manager. And Erik ten Hag is a smart guy. You know, he thinks that he's got the backing of the club, but he also knows that you just cannot carry on losing games. And for Luton to go to Old Trafford and win, given what's gone before them this season, you know, United would face a massive, massive decision there.
Interesting comments there, Stevie, from Rob, saying there isn't really a succession plan in place because they didn't feel that they needed one. They want to put all their eggs in the one basket with Ten Hag, and hopefully he can turn things around. But I want to take a look at this full screen with the odds on a potential replacement for Erik ten Hag. And certainly one of the favourites up there is Zinedine Zidane, along with Graham Potter. Look, the only reason you're on this is because Dan Thomas is a little rascal and asked Paddy Power for odds on what it would be for you to take over. So assuming it's not going to be you, any of those names float your boat?
I think Nagelsmann and De Zerbi are the two that stick out. I don't think there's any way Zidane's taking the job in a million years. Not happening. Potter, I mean, considering what happened at Chelsea, although a lot of it certainly was out with his, you know, you couldn't really point the finger that much, in my opinion, at him. But I still think it's taking a little chunk of away of how we think about him. So Nagelsmann and De Zerbi for me would be the two. You know, Nagelsmann, you know, Rob's talking about, you know, there's no succession plan and no look to the future. I mean, Nagelsmann probably would be the look to the future. De Zerbi, on the other hand, I think would be, for now, I think he's the type of character that probably would get a reaction from this group of players. So, yeah, those two. If I'm United and I've got a choice, I'd probably go with De Zerbi, just because of the experiences. Even though he's only been in the Premier League a short time, he pretty much knows it inside out. He knows what's needed to win. He certainly doesn't look like a shrinking violet. He's quite confident, shall we say. So I think he's got the temperament to walk into Manchester United and straight away certainly make an attitude adjustment, because right now there doesn't seem to be a particularly good attitude at United. So, yeah, De Zerbi first and then maybe Nagelsmann second.
Just finally, a quick one for you, Rob, before we move on to Chelsea against Manchester City on Sunday and hear from both managers and get your thoughts on it as well. In all your research about Jim Ratcliffe with his potential investment coming in, and that will hopefully be done from a United perspective over the next few weeks, has there been anything about who he might fancy as a manager if it isn't Erik ten Hag?
Well, as I say, I mean, the noises coming out of his camp at least a couple of weeks ago were that they were going to give Erik ten Hag a chance, and you know, they supported him in that role. The interesting one on that list is Graham Potter. Obviously, he's not got a job, hasn't worked since Chelsea. But there was a suggestion over the summer that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who obviously owns a French club, Nice, had tried to get Potter involved there in the summer. So you'd have to assume that if that's the case, that he's quite a big fan of Graham Potter, and that if there was a situation where he was in charge of the football side of the business at Man United and there was a vacancy for a new manager, that again, Potter would be one of the names in the frame for that. Again, Stevie's right. His time at Chelsea didn't go particularly well. Obviously, he built up a lot of credit with what he did at Brighton. So, would United fans be particularly happy with Graham Potter coming in after what happened at Chelsea? I'm not sure, especially. Again, the interesting thing about this was if they were to make a change mid-season, would United go with a permanent manager who was there for the long term, or would they do something short term? In the past, when they've sacked managers mid-season, they've looked for a short-term interim to try and buy themselves some time to then make the right appointment later down the line. And one of the names in the frame that has been mentioned is Lopetegui, who's obviously not worked since he left Wolves, but was someone that United interviewed an awful lot when they were hiring Ten Hag. So United know everything about Lopetegui. He stayed in England after the Wolves job. He is available. I would imagine that he would be in and around the conversation if there was a vacancy at United as well.
Yeah, 2 huge games coming up. First of all, Luton at home, and then that trip to Turkey to face Galatasaray on the last Wednesday of the month. There's a lot more to come with this story at Manchester United. We'll head to the other side of the city now and talk Manchester City, because they're heading to Stamford Bridge this weekend for the game on Sunday against Chelsea. Before we hear from Stevie and from Rob previewing that, let's hear from the two managers, Maurizio Pochettino and Pep Guardiola.
For me, it's the best team, the best coaching staff, the best coach or the manager. We need to prize. I think we need to tell the truth. And all the organization is one of the best or the best organization in the world. Because when you show the result that you are showing, it's because from the top and the bottom, you are doing the thing really, really well. And we need to give credit to all the organization of Manchester City, from the top and the bottom. And of course, it's going to be a challenge. We want to compete against them. We really know that it's going to be tough, but I think we are going to go and try to compete in our best and try to, what we want is to win the 3 points, because that's important for us.
Though this is getting better, every manager needs his time, so new club, new players, but sooner or later, and I guess sooner than later, will be top, be a contender, because the quality in all departments are there.
Okay, so Pochettino says...
That was a waste of time. What did we get?
I was about to say that. It's like the Mutual Appreciation Society, isn't it? Oh, they're the best. Oh, they'll get there. What about the handbags? What about when you used to manage and you're like, no, they're rubbish?
Seriously? Come on. Do you have to go and sit and listen to that all the time, Rob? Just managers kissing each other's backside for no apparent reason, all top to bottom. What? What's this got to do with the game? Nothing. God, seriously.
You done?
I think so. Yeah. I just
get Stevie in the Premier League quickly as possible.
Well, 500 to 1 for Man United. Look, I try to get him the Hartford Athletic job in the USL. We'll preview that later, but that ain't going to happen either. He's just too comfortable sitting on the ESPN FC studio and raking leaves. Anyway, let's talk Chelsea Man United. What did we learn from Chelsea, Stevie, in that game against Spurs that could help them against Man City? Anything?
Well, they can beat 9 men.
Well,
they can score goals. If they're playing against 9 men, we know they can score goals. I mean, that's about it, I mean, it's not their fault that the way the game panned out, but at the same time, to look at it and try and think about it rationally, we saw all the stuff from Chelsea that we've been seeing for pretty much most of the season. They can get from the back through to the middle to the front, but once they get to the front, then they're blunt. And I don't know where and when it changes. Because Sterling's not a goal scorer. I don't think Nicholas Jackson's a goal scorer.
And Cuckoo's on his way back. Should be the next few weeks. That could help.
See, and that's the thing. All of a sudden, and Kunku is the answer. Well, let me tell you, there's a couple of players from Germany that came over a couple of years ago to Chelsea, and one of them's back in Germany, and the other one's at Arsenal, and they were forwards who were supposed to score goals and couldn't do it. So I don't think we should automatically think Nkunku's the answer. I mean, I don't even think he's a centre forward, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's the old problem right now that Chelsea have that isn't going away anytime soon. It doesn't feel like, They can't score goals, and they're playing against a team that can score goals.
Yeah, Rob, that's your beat in the Northwest. Man City going to Chelsea a few years ago, the Mourinho era and everything like that down at Stamford Bridge. It was like, whoa, this is a proper one. This is a tough one to call. Is it a tough one to call these days when Manchester City go to Chelsea?
No, I mean, look, City have been so good the last couple of years that it's City have destroyed far better teams than Chelsea. I think City beat them 4 times last year, which tells you how dominant they were, particularly last season. Obviously, Chelsea had a really poor season. I think the worry for Chelsea heading into the game on Sunday is that they're playing a team who are really starting to put their foot down. They had a little blip where they lost 3 out of 4 games when they didn't have Rodri through suspension. But they've started to look more like themselves recently. They've won 5 on the bounce now. They did go 6 games without a clean sheet at one stage relatively recently, but now it's 2 clean sheets in 3 games. They've scored 15 goals in the last 4 games. They are starting to look like the team that we all expect them to be this season. It's typical of City, after Christmas to really start going on those long winning runs that win them the league. Perhaps it started a little early this year. They're starting to look a lot more like the team that we saw win the treble last year, and really for Chelsea, that's a massive worry heading into Sunday.
Stevie, can Chelsea stop Haaland, Alvarez, Bernardo Silva, Grealish if he plays, Foden, Doku? How do you do that?
I don't think they can. Too much. They got too much. I mean, I kind of simplified it, but it really is the facts. One team can, one team can't, and one team has multiple players who can hurt you, and the other team are struggling to find one that's really going to hurt you. I mean, all the signs are that it's going to be comfortable for City. I'm sure at times there'll be periods where Chelsea will have the ball and will try and get at City. But ultimately, City's got way too much talent and way too much organisation that will slip up against Chelsea. I don't see anything here other than a comfortable City win.
And what about what Rob was saying, and that they're starting to pick up a little bit earlier than they maybe did last season, but it's helped when Liverpool can't win at Luton, when Spurs go down to Chelsea, when Arsenal have that defeat at Newcastle, and City just do what City do. And is this the start of a potential gap beginning to appear, albeit it isn't there, but would it be a surprise if that was to happen with City now?
I don't think it would be a surprise because we know that's what they do. And I think the worst thing for everybody else in the Premier League is that as a group of players, when you get in a situation that City are in, where you're stepping on the field and you know you're going to win, that's a great place to be. And that seems to be what's happening right now. They've gone through that little patch where things weren't quite working out, but now they look as though they've just changed gear a little bit. And when that confidence goes through the whole team, not just 2 or 3 players, but all of a sudden the whole team stepping on the field knowing they're going to win, that's a tough force to come up against. And it kind of feels as though that's what's beginning to happen with City, even this early, never mind past Christmas.
Rob, just a question on Cole Palmer and his input and his impact at Chelsea. Was it the right decision, you think, that he made to go there? And would he have played as much at City as he has done recently at Chelsea? A good move for him?
I think it's been a good move for him. You only have to look, you've mentioned it there about the amount of games that he's playing at Chelsea compared to perhaps the games he would have got at City. Last season was kind of considered Cole Palmer's not breakthrough, but the one where he was really sort of on the fringes. But he only started 2 Premier League games for City last season, and both of those came after they'd already won the title. I think he started the last 7 games in all competitions for Chelsea, which tells you that immediately he's gone from being very much a fringe player at City to a first-team regular at Chelsea. Obviously, he's going to have ambitions to break through into the England squad. You need to be playing regular games as a young player to do that. So I imagine that he would probably think that he's made the right choice. I also think there was a little bit of surprise at City over the summer that Chelsea came in with the size of the bid that they did. I mean, £40 million for a 21-year-old who hadn't really played an awful lot of Premier League football is a huge amount of money. I think City, would have been happy to keep him. They rated him very highly and thought that if they managed him in the right way, that possibly he could become something similar to Phil Foden. But I think Cole Palmer just got to the point where he wasn't ready to wait for those opportunities. A big club in Chelsea came calling. They were obviously offering him more first-team football. I think it was a bit of a no-brainer for him in the end.
Stevie's gone for City. What about you?
The one thing that I would suggest is that Pochettino gave Guardiola's teams a really good game when he was at Tottenham manager. He knocked them out of the Champions League once. They had a couple of good wins, particularly at home, and a couple also at the Etihad Stadium. So I think Pochettino, maybe that will play in the back of Guardiola's mind a little bit, that Pochettino possibly on a couple of occasions has had his number. I just think the form of the two teams will tell, though, that City are in a really good run of form. Chelsea are just trying to start to find their feet. Obviously, they had a good win against 9 men, as Stevie said, against Spurs. I just can't see anything other than a City win. It might not be as comfortable as perhaps many expect, but I expect City to win.
And a brief tangent, can't have Stevie Nicol on and not briefly talk about Liverpool. Brentford on Sunday, Stevie. Any concerns there for your boys?
No, we're at home. I think this year at home, Liverpool have looked like the old Liverpool. If they can get their away form sorted out, then I'd be happier. But I think at home, it should be comfortable. Okay.
My thanks to Rob. Stevie's going to stick with us for just a few more minutes. Rob, enjoy your weekend, wherever you end up, and we'll see your stuff on ESPNFC.com. Now, the Bundesliga. Harry Kane is absolutely flying. More goals in the Champions League, more goals in the Bundesliga. And we have an exclusive sit-down with Harry Kane on ESPN FC that's coming up over the next few days. But we can give you a little sneak preview of our 20 questions with Harry Kane.
A player you would have liked to play alongside?
I mean, I'd love to play with Messi. I think, his game understanding, his vision, his passing, one of the greatest players to ever play our game. So I'm sure he'd be able to give me a few assists.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What would that be like? Messi and Kane up front for you as a defender, or for modern day defenders to try and stop?
Well, it's basically choose your poison, isn't it? I mean, who do you try and shut down first? That would be a lethal combination. Harry would be able to save his legs. He wouldn't have to drop in the way he does these days. He can just stay up front and wait for the supply and then stick it in the back of the net. Yeah, that would be an incredible duo.
If your boss said to you, right, Stevie, you can choose, you can man mark one of them, who are you going for?
Kane.
Because?
I just think he's more straightforward. You know what he does do, he does it at an incredibly high level. I think he'll be easier to mark. I mean, Messi, you just don't know what he's going to do next. I think with Kane, you've got an idea of what he's trying to do. Whether you can stop him is a different question. Whereas Messi, he's just got so many ways of beating you, and you don't know which way it's going to be. I think with Harry Kane, you would figure out what you're going to try and do. But the question is, can you stop him? Whereas Messi, you don't know how he's going to beat you. You just know he's going to beat you.
I think we'd have to clarify if it's 1980s laws of the game or 2020.
Oh, that's different. Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Then it's Messi.
Like Maradona in 86 and Pele in 19...
If it's the 80s, then Harry Kane will kick you back and stick an elbow in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Messi's physicality might go against him. I mean, you just think back to how many games Maradona missed in the 80s because of that. You know, with injuries and people kicking him and all kinds. So yeah. If it's back in the 80s, Messi. If it's today, Kane.
Stevie, thank you. Those leaves need more raking. We will see you on ESPN FC over the weekend.
Sorry, I'm getting a flight to Manchester. Sorry, I won't be able to do the leaves today.
Okay, no problem at all. He's the next manager, perhaps, for 500 to 1. Remember, Harry Kane's interview exclusively on the ESPN FC YouTube play and on this weekend, Saturday. Bayern Munich against Heidenheim on ESPN+. Harry Kane looking for more goals in the Bundesliga. Coverage begins half an hour beforehand with the ESPN FC pre-game show. Kickoff at Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena at 9:30. Now, we've got a big weekend coming up in the United States. We're going to preview the USL Championship game shortly, but before that, it's the NWSL Championship game. We've got a big one coming up between the Rain and Gotham. Rapinoe is going to be heavily involved in her final ever game, and it's kind of fitting that her final ever game is also the same for her close friend, Ali Krieger. Seb Salazar looks ahead.
So anybody who opens up your Wikipedia can see all the things that you've won. They would also, if they're looking between the lines, see the thing that you haven't won.
Right.
What would it mean to have an NWSL championship?
This would be a gift, not only to myself, but just to my career. This would be a dream come true to win in my own country. The club championship is something that I've always wanted to win. I know I've won it in Germany, but this is, winning it in your own country is something different. And I think it would be the cherry on top to my career. And not that it will define it, because I will still be very proud and this will still be all so rewarding. But this will be magic if I could stand on that podium and hoist this trophy with my incredible teammates who've made me look so good all my entire career. I can't wait.
And here we are, 48 hours away from your last game as a professional. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. It's everybody's last game this year, so I feel like a little bit of the focus is off me. Just excited to be in the championship and try to get this elusive chip.
A lot of, headline ink has been spilled over you and Ali Krieger kind of potentially going out together. What does that mean to you?
Man, I mean, this is going to be something we'll be, talking about with, I don't know if I'm going to have kids, but her kids at least for a long time, and over vacations and many bottles of wine for years to come. So I think for us personally, it's just so special. Obviously, it's a fun storyline for everyone else, but for us, I think it's actually just super meaningful, and both looking forward to going at it.
You mentioned chasing the chip. I mean, 18, 19 semifinals, 21, 22 semifinals. What does it mean to be here?
Everything. Obviously being in the championship, way back a few years ago, coming up short the last couple times, to be able to play, my last game ever, being in the most meaningful game that you can possibly play, playing for a championship. There's no better way to go out, and hopefully be able to finally bring that piece of hardware back.
And give us the quick scouting report, Gotham FC, kind of what do you expect in the final?
Oh, man, they're just so good, so experienced. They obviously have championship-level experience all over the field. They're so tough, obviously really difficult in the press, can score goals. They have really dynamic players, so I'm not going to give away the scouting report, but it's going to be tough.
Really nice way to end. And of course, NWSL might be coming to an end for this season, but ESPN is delighted to announce that for the next 4 years, we will be showing 20 games per season from the NWSL. But is it going to be Krieger or is it going to be Rapinoe that takes home the silverware this weekend? Stay tuned to ESPN FC to find out. There's also silverware up for grabs in the USL, the league below Major League Soccer. It was third in the Eastern Conference Charleston Battery and sixth in the Western Conference Phoenix, who got through the playoffs, and they will meet this weekend. It should be a decent one. Let's have a little promo to look ahead to the action.
90 minutes to protect our dream. 90 minutes to protect the dream of everyone else in Phoenix.
If you asked me, we would be here at the beginning of the year. I don't think any of us would have said that. I don't think anybody expected us to be here, but we defied the odds and we're here.
You play to win. You play to win trophies. Those young men did it.
We walk on the field like this, we walk out of the field like this. Whatever comes our way, we stay like this, we stay together. It doesn't matter how you start. 95 minutes of focus, of concentration. Go and show everyone.
Trejo! Here's Barajas. Fidel Barajas! An absolutely insane save. He has no business making that save. Again, it comes in, diving header! Arturo Rodriguez! And the Battery are flying it home!
One more!
One more indeed. Charleston Battery or Phoenix Rising. That will decide who will win the USL Championship. Coverage from 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 this Sunday. Every single USL Championship game has been on ESPN Plus this season. You can catch the final on ESPN2, and it'll be Charleston or Phoenix taking home the silverware. Good luck to them, and also to the Reign and Gotham in the NWSL Championship game, and full coverage of the weekend Premier League action, Bundesliga, La Liga, and all the big games on ESPN FC. Wherever you're going this weekend, if you're going to a game, enjoy it, or if you're following it on TV or online, ESPN FC will provide full coverage. Bye for now.